The gymnasium goes silent when Coach Vincent Drexler raises his hand, stopping the starting lineup announcement 15 minutes before tip-off. The state championship semifinal crowd, packed bleachers, standing room only. College scouts with clipboards in the third row, lanes forward as one organism sensing drama. "Change to the lineup," Drexler announces, voice carrying that false warmth he uses when cameras are rolling. "Dante Reeves will not be starting tonight." The words hit like a physical force. Dante's teammate Marcus drops the basketball he's been spinning. It bounces twice, loud in the sudden quiet. "Not starting," someone calls from the bleachers. He's averaging 32 points. Drexler's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Basketball isn't just about scoring, it's about discipline. Structure, he pauses, lets the next words settle with deliberate weight. Kids from that neighborhood sometimes struggle with the mental aspect of the game. The pressure of this moment, I'm making a coaching decision in the best interest of this team, that neighborhood. The words hang in the air like smoke. Everyone knows which neighborhood he means. Everyone knows Dante takes 2 buses from Riverside Projects every morning. Arrives an hour early to practice in his uncle's faded 1999 high tops. Leaves an hour late. The reaction ripples through the gym in waves. Dante's teammates exchange glances, confusion, anger, fear of speaking up. Some parents shift uncomfortably in their seats, recognizing the coded language, but unwilling to challenge a coach with 23 years of authority. Others nod slightly, approval disguised as thoughtful consideration. The scouts write something down, expressions unreadable. Dante sits on the bench, number 14 jersey hanging loose on his line frame, and says nothing. No argument, no protest. He simply reaches into his gym bag and pulls out a leather journal, binding cracked with age, pages yellowed at the edges. His grandmother pressed it into his hands this morning with trembling fingers and wet eyes. Said it was time he understood everything. He opens to the first page. The handwriting is similar to his own but looser, more confident. The ink has faded to brown, but the words remain sharp. They'll try to make you invisible when you shine too bright. It threatens something in them they can't name. Don't fight it yet. Save your light for when the darkness is watching. Wait for the moment that matters most. The date at the top reads September 1998. His Uncle Terrence's handwriting, Tyrael they called him. The legend from Riverside Projects who could have played anywhere, could have been anything, until he couldn't. The referee's whistle blows. The game starts without Lincoln Heights' leading scorer. Dante watches from the bench, journal open on his lap, as his team struggles against Jefferson High's zone defense. Without his court vision, his ability to find the open man, the offense collapses into isolation plays and forced shots. Marcus tries to carry the load, but Jefferson doubles him every possession. The score climbs, 8-2, 15-6, 22-9. Coach Drexler paces the sideline, calling plays that require Dante's speed and decision-making. He doesn't look at the bench, doesn't acknowledge the mistake becoming more obvious with each possession. Dante turns pages slowly, reading his uncle's words. Training drills, philosophy about the game, observations about coaches who fear what they can't control. The journal is a roadmap, he realizes, a warning and a weapon left behind by someone who walked this exact path. By halftime, Lincoln Heights is down 18 points. The locker room is silent, except for Drexler's voice trying to rally a team that knows the solution is sitting on the bench in 23-year-old high tops. The scouts are talking to each other now, gesturing toward the court, toward the bench, making connections. Dante stays in the hallway, back against the cool concrete wall, reading. His grandmother told him this morning that his uncle played for Coach Drexler. That Terrence was the best player Lincoln Heights ever had until something happened his senior year. Something that took away his scholarships, his future, eventually his life. She didn't say what, just handed him the journal and said the truth was inside. He finds it near the middle of the book. A page that's been folded over, marked, returned to so many times the crease has nearly torn through. The title is written in capital letters, underlined 3 times. The game plan for when they bench you, the date beneath it, February 12, 1999. 23 years ago, almost to the day, the state championship semifinal game. His uncle's senior year, the same coach, the same excuse about discipline and neighborhoods. The same benching. Dante reads the first line of his uncle's game plan, and something cold and certain settles in his chest. This isn't just about basketball, this is about a pattern, a system. A coach who has been making talented black kids from poor neighborhoods invisible for more than 2 decades. Protecting something, hiding something, destroying futures to preserve his own legacy. The second half buzzer sounds from inside the gym. His teammates file past him toward the court, eyes dropping when they meet his. They know this is wrong, everyone knows. But knowing and speaking are different countries. Dante closes the journal carefully, runs his thumb over the worn leather cover. His uncle's championship ring from 1999, the one his grandmother keeps in a locked box, has an inscription he's memorized. Dante Reeves, MVP, but there's no record of Terrence playing college ball. No scholarship, no future beyond that ring, just this journal, this warning. This game plan written by a 15-year-old who somehow knew exactly what would happen. Who tried to prepare for a moment that would come again. Dante stands, tucks the journal under his arm, and walks toward the gymnasium entrance. Through the doorway he can see the scoreboard, Jefferson 46, Lincoln Heights 28. He can see Coach Drexler on the sideline, jaw tight. Knowing he needs his benched star, but unable to admit the mistake without exposing the lie. The journal feels heavy in Dante's hands, not because of its weight, but because of what it contains. Proof that this moment has happened before, evidence that his silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. His uncle's final note on the game plan page reads, "When they try to erase you, make sure the world is watching when you reappear." Dante sits back down on the bench and waits for his moment. The halftime buzzer echoes through empty hallways that smell like floor wax and decades of teenage sweat. Dante sits with his back against cold cinder block, his uncle's journal open across his knees. The leather cover is soft from years of handling, edges worn smooth by fingers that stopped moving 23 years ago. He turns to a page dated March 12, 1999. The handwriting is careful, deliberate. His uncle's words, "Coach Drexler called me into his office today. Said someone reported me for taking money from a college booster. Said there were witnesses, said my scholarship offers were being reviewed. I told him I never took anything from anyone. He looked at me like I was already gone. Like I was a problem that solved itself. Dante's fingers trace the ink. The next entry is dated 2 weeks later. Duke pulled their offer. Georgetown stopped returning calls. Coach won't look at me during practice. Khalil got his scholarship to Syracuse. He won't talk to me anymore. Nobody will. They all think I did something wrong, but nobody can tell me what. I averaged 34 points per game this season. Now I'm a cautionary tale about kids from the projects who get too big for their situation. The pages blur. Dante blinks hard, keeps reading. I figured it out. Coach Drexler's son Jackson is being recruited by the same programs, same position, same scholarship slots. If I'm out of the picture, Jackson moves up the board. It's that simple, that clean. One false accusation and a black kid from Riverside Projects disappears while a coach's son from Maple Grove gets his future handed to him. Footsteps echo down the hallway. Dante doesn't look up until his grandmother's shadow falls across the page. Lorraine Reeves is 68 years old and looks like she's carried every one of those years on her back. She works night shifts at County General, cleaning floors that doctors walk across without seeing her. But right now, standing over her grandson in an empty school hallway, she looks like something ancient and immovable. "You found it," she says, not a question. "Why didn't you tell me?" Dante's voice cracks on the last word. She lowers herself to the floor beside him, joints protesting. Takes the journal from his hands and flips to a page near the end. April 3, 1999. Your uncle wrote this the day after the accusations went public. Read it, Dante reads. They're going to do this again. Not to me, I'm already done. But to someone else, some other kid who shines too bright from the wrong neighborhood. When they do, I hope that kid is smarter than me. I hope he sees it coming. I hope he makes them pay for every stolen dream, every erased future. Every black boy they turned invisible to protect their own. Coach Drexler never proved the accusations. Lorraine says. Her voice is steady, but her hands shake. Never had to. The rumor was enough. Terrence lost everything, not because he did anything wrong. Because Vincent Drexler needed him gone, for his son, for his legacy. For his record, for his reputation as the coach who develops talent. She laughs, bitter and sharp. He develops the right kind of talent, the kind with parents who donate to booster clubs. The kind from neighborhoods with good zip codes, kids like you, kids like Terrence. You're just statistics until you become threats. Dante stares at the journal. Uncle T died when I was 3. He died at 26. Worked at the warehouse, played pickup ball at Riverside Courts, drank too much, stopped sleeping. Depression, the doctors called it. I called it murder. Just took 7 years for the wound to finish bleeding. She reaches into her jacket pocket and pulls out a small velvet box. He left this for you. Made me promise to give it to you when the time came. The ring inside is scratched gold, the engraving barely visible. Tyrell Reeves, MVP, District Finals 1999. Last game he ever played, Lorraine says. Scored 42 points. Scouts were there, college coaches, media. He was untouchable that night. Then Drexler made his accusations and Terrence became a ghost. Dante slides the ring onto his finger. Too big, but he makes a fist, and it stays. Your uncle wrote that journal for you, Lorraine continues. He knew it would happen again. He knew Drexler wouldn't stop. He documented everything, the pattern, the system. The way coaches like Drexler protect themselves by destroying black talent from poor neighborhoods. He wanted you to be ready. I'm ready. Dante stands, journal in one hand, his uncle's ring heavy on his finger. No, the voice comes from the gymnasium entrance. Coach Raymond Okoro steps into the hallway, face tight with something between fear and determination. You're not ready yet, but you will be. Okoro has been assistant coach for 8 years. Quiet, observant, the kind of man who keeps his head down and his mouth shut. Until now, he's done this to 6 players in 23 years, Okoro says. All of them black, all of them from Riverside or Eastwood projects. All of them benched or sidelined or accused of something vague and unprovable right when college scouts started paying attention. Your uncle was the first. There have been 5 since. You knew. Dante's voice is flat. I documented everything, game footage, recruiting patterns. Testimonies from former players, the family's Drexler favors versus the talent he buries. I have evidence that would end his career. Okoro meets Dante's eyes. But evidence isn't enough, not against someone with his reputation. I need him to expose himself. I need the pattern to become undeniable. What does that mean? It means I need you to force his hand. Get back on that court. Show every scout and every camera exactly what he benched. Make your performance so brilliant that his decision becomes indefensible. Make the injustice visible. Inside the gymnasium, the third quarter buzzer sounds. Jefferson is up by 23. Your uncle stayed silent, Okoro says. He accepted his erasure because he didn't know how to fight a system designed to protect coaches like Drexler. But you're not your uncle. You have his journal, his game plan, his ring. And you have me, ready to testify the moment you give me cause. Dante looks at his grandmother. She nods once, fierce and final. He looks at the ring on his finger. At the journal that maps every move his uncle never got to make. What do I need to do? Coach Okoro's smile is sharp as broken glass. Go back in there, force him to put you in the game. Then show everyone what 23 years of buried talent looks like when it refuses to stay invisible. The third quarter opens with Jefferson high executing a perfect pick and roll. Their point guard slices through Lincoln Heights' defense like it's tissue paper. Drops a no-look pass to their center for an easy dunk. The crowd roars, 26-point deficit now. On the bench, Dante sits motionless, his uncle's journal closed on his lap. The 1999 championship ring catching gymnasium light. Coach Drexler paces the sideline, barking instructions that his players can't hear over the noise. Jackson Drexler, starting in Dante's usual position, stumbles through a defensive rotation and gets burned for another layup. 28 points down. In the parking lot, Lorraine Reeves stands beside her ancient Buick, cell phone pressed to her ear. Khalil, I need you at Lincoln Heights Gym. Right now, it's happening again. Coach Drexler just benched Dante the same way he destroyed Terrence. Her voice cracks on her dead son's name. 23 years and he's still doing it, still burying our boys. She ends the call. Dials another number with shaking fingers. Inside, Coach Okoro moves through the crowd with careful purpose, phone in hand. He finds a quiet corner behind the bleachers and pulls up a contact. Simon Ortega, regional sports investigator. His text is brief. Pattern case at Lincoln Heights championship game. Coach benched top scorer before semifinal. Fits your investigation. Bring camera. The response comes in seconds. Address. On the court, Lincoln Heights calls timeout. The team huddles, exhausted and demoralized. Jackson slumps on the bench, head in hands. He's averaging 9 points per game. Dante averages 32. Everyone in this gymnasium knows the math doesn't work. In the upper bleachers, a man in his early 40s sits alone, hands gripping his knees. Khalil Monroe hasn't been inside Lincoln Heights gym since 1999, the year he graduated with a full ride to Michigan State. The year his best friend and teammate Dante Reeves lost everything. He watches Dante on the bench, same lean build as Tyriel, same intense focus. Same way of holding still, that makes you think he's seeing 3 plays ahead. Khalil's phone buzzes. Lorraine's text reads, he's benching Dante, just like Terrence. I need you to tell the truth this time. Khalil's chest tightens. 23 years of carried guilt, of knowing he got out because someone else got buried. He stands, starts making his way down the bleachers. The game resumes. Jefferson extends their lead to 30 points. The Lincoln Heights student section has gone quiet, confused, and angry. Some hold phones up, live streaming the collapse. Near the main entrance, Simon Ortega arrives with a camera bag and press credentials. She spent 8 months investigating coaching abuse in high school athletics, tracking a pattern of talented athletes from poor neighborhoods mysteriously benched, sidelined, or accused of violations right when college recruitment intensifies. She scans the court, spots Dante on the bench, checks her notes. Dante Reeves. 32 points per game, 7 assists, 4 steals. Division I interest from 6 programs. Benched tonight with attitude concerns. She approaches a cluster of men in polo shirts near courtside. College scouts credentials hanging from lanyards. Excuse me. Simon Ortega, investigative sports journalist. Can I ask why you're here tonight? The closest scout, mid-50s with a Michigan hat, looks irritated. We drove 4 hours to watch Dante Reeves. Kid's been unstoppable all season. Now he's glued to the bench and nobody will tell us why. Did Coach Drexler give a reason? Something vague about discipline and attitude. But I've watched this kid all year. He's the most composed 15-year-old I've ever scouted. Doesn't showboat, doesn't argue calls, just plays. The scout shakes his head. This doesn't make sense. Simone pulls out her recorder. Would you be willing to state that on record? The scout looks at the court. At Dante sitting motionless while his team disintegrates. Yeah, I would. 4 minutes left in the game. Lincoln Heights down 28 points. The deficit is insurmountable now. Championship hopes dying in real time. Then Jackson Drexler stops moving. He's at half court when Jefferson scores again, and instead of jogging back on defense, he just stands there. The referee blows the whistle, confused. Players from both teams look at him. Coach Drexler yells something from the sideline. Jackson walks off the court. Not to the bench, past the bench, straight to where his father stands. The gymnasium goes quiet enough to hear sneakers squeaking on the far end of the court. "Put Dante in," Jackson says. His voice carries in the sudden silence. "This is wrong." Coach Drexler's face goes through 3 expressions in 2 seconds. Shock, rage, then something that looks like fear. "Get back on that court." "No." Jackson pulls off his jersey, lets it fall to the polished floor. "You benched the best player in the state because of where he lives. Because he's black and from the projects, and you can't control him the way you control everyone else." "I'm done being part of this." The student section erupts. Phones everywhere now, dozens of cameras capturing this moment. Coach Drexler grabs his son's arm. "You don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing." Jackson pulls free. "Put Dante in the game. Or I walk out of this gym, and I tell everyone what I've heard you say about players like him when you thought nobody was listening." For the first time all night. Dante turns his head. Looks at Jackson. Something passes between them. Recognition, maybe respect. Coach Drexler's hand is shaking. He opens his mouth to respond. Then he sees Khalil Monroe, coming down from the bleachers, moving through the crowd with purpose. Khalil, who was there in 1999, who heard every word of the false accusations. Who got his scholarship the same week Terrence lost everything. The color drains from Coach Drexler's face. Khalil reaches the court, steps onto the polished hardwood in his work boots and grease-stained jacket. He looks at Coach Drexler, and 23 years of buried truth sits between them like a loaded gun. "Hello, Coach," Khalil says quietly. "I think it's time we talked about Terrence Reeves." The gymnasium holds 1,500 people. But when Khalil Monroe reaches the bench area, it feels like the whole world is watching. He's 40 years old now, wearing a work jacket with his name stitched over the pocket. But his eyes are the same ones that watched Terrence Reeves get destroyed 23 years ago. "I should have said something 23 years ago," Khalil says, looking directly at Coach Drexler. "I'm saying it now." He turns to where Simone Ortega stands with her camera, red recording light steady. His voice is clear, practiced, like he's been rehearsing these words for 2 decades. "There were no recruiting violations in 1999. Terrence Reeves never took money from any booster." Coach Drexler fabricated the entire accusation because Terrence and his son were competing for the same scholarship spot at state. The crowd noise drops to whispers. Phones rise like a field of lights. "I witnessed Coach Drexler plant the evidence," Khalil continues. "He put a cash envelope in Terrence's locker the morning before the athletic director's inspection. I was there, I saw it happen. And I stayed silent because I was afraid I'd lose my own scholarship if I spoke up." Coach Drexler's face has gone from red to gray. "This is slander. This is the truth." Khalil's voice doesn't rise, but it cuts through. "Terrence lost everything that day. Every offer, every opportunity. And I got my scholarship to state the same week. I've been living with that guilt ever since." Movement in the stands. A man in his late 30s stands, pulls out his phone, starts recording himself. "I'm Marcus Chen," he says loud enough for the nearest section to hear. "Class of 2010. I was benched my entire senior year after my family couldn't afford the summer camp Coach Drexler ran. I had scouts interested until I suddenly stopped getting playing time." Another voice, this one from the opposite bleachers. Deshaun Williams, 2015, got suspended for attitude problems right before district finals. The attitude problem was asking why my stats didn't match my minutes, then another. And another, former players standing, recording, testifying. A pattern emerging in real time, documented on dozens of phones, spreading across social media even as it happens. Coach Okoro moves to Simone's side, hands her a manila folder. His hands are steady now, no more hesitation. 6 players over 23 years, he says, speaking for her camera. All black, all from low-income neighborhoods, all benched, suspended, or dismissed at critical moments in their careers. All when they threaten to outshine players from wealthier families. He opens the folder. Shows pages of statistics, incident reports. Scholarship offers that mysteriously disappeared. I've been documenting this for 8 years. I was afraid to come forward alone. But I'm not alone anymore. In the press box, athletic director Patricia Hammond has been watching through the glass. She's 61 years old, 30 years in school administration, and she's seen enough. She picks up her phone, makes a call that lasts 40 seconds, then stands and walks toward the stairs. On the court, Lincoln Heights is down 31 points with 2 minutes and 47 seconds remaining. The opposing team is running their bench, practically walking through plays. The game is over, everyone knows it, except it's not over, not yet. Patricia Hammond reaches courtside, her heels clicking on the polished floor. She walks straight to Coach Drexler, and her voice carries in the strange quiet that's fallen over the gym. You're relieved, effective immediately. She turns to Coach Okoro. Raymond, your acting head coach, put Dante Reeves in the game. Now Coach Drexler opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. The man who had all the words, all the authority, all the control, stands there speechless while his career crumbles in real time. Dante hasn't moved from his seat at the end of the bench. He's been watching everything unfold, his uncle's journal in his lap, and now he looks down at it one more time. The last page, the one he's read 100 times. When your moment comes, don't hold back. Show them everything, make them remember. He closes the journal, sets it carefully on the bench. Then he reaches into his warm-up jacket pocket and pulls out a ring. Gold scratched, the engraving almost worn away. Lincoln Heights Champions, 1999. His grandmother gave it to him 3 days ago, when she finally told him the whole truth. The ring Terrence never got to wear in the championship game, he never got to play. Dante slides it onto his right hand. It fits perfectly. Coach Okoro calls timeout. The official blows the whistle. Dante stands, pulls off his warm-up jacket. The crowd sees him moving, and the noise starts building. A wave of sound that grows with each step he takes toward the scorer's table. He checks in, the official signals. Dante steps onto the court, and the eruption is deafening. The scoreboard reads 81-50, 2 minutes and 47 seconds remaining. An impossible deficit, an impossible situation. Dante takes his position at the top of the key. The ball is inbounded to him. He feels the weight of his uncle's ring on his finger. The eyes of 1,500 people. The cameras broadcasting this moment across the state. He looks up at the scoreboard one more time, then down at the ring. "This is for you, Unc," he whispers. Then he crosses half court and everything changes, 2:47 remaining. Dante catches the inbound pass at half-court, and the defender closes on him immediately, hands up, body tight. Standard pressure defense, the kind that's worked all season because Dante has let it work. Not tonight, he crosses left, then snaps back right so fast the defender's ankles buckle. The move is surgical, precise, exactly as described on page 47 of his uncle's journal. Hesitation dribble into crossover, sell the drive, then explode opposite. They'll bite every time. They bite. Dante rises from 3 feet beyond the arc and releases. The ball traces a perfect arc, drops through without touching rim. The crowd gasps. 81-53, 2:19 remaining. The opposing team inbounds quickly, trying to run clock, but Dante reads the passing lane like he wrote the play himself. He intercepts at midcourt, takes 2 dribbles, elevates, another 3, swish, 81-56. In the stands, Lorraine Reeves clutches Terrence's journal to her chest, tears streaming. She's watching her son play 23 years after they buried him. On the sideline, Coach Drexler stands frozen, his face the color of old newspaper. Simone's livestream viewer count climbs past 12,000, 1:54 remaining. Dante steals the inbound pass this time, doesn't even let them cross half-court. He's everywhere at once, hands disrupting every passing lane, feet moving with impossible speed. He drives baseline, absorbs contact from 2 defenders, finishes with his left hand while falling out of bounds. And 1, the free throw drops clean, 81-60. The opposing coach calls timeout. His players huddle, confused, panicked. They've been dominating for 37 minutes. Now they're watching their lead evaporate like morning fog. 1:28 remaining, timeout over. The opposing point guard brings the ball up carefully, protecting it with both hands. Dante pressures him at half-court, then strips him clean. The ball bounces once before Dante scoops it, already in full sprint. He rises at the free throw line, Terrence's journal, page 92. When you have momentum, make them remember, the free throw line dunk isn't about points. It's about breaking their will. Dante dunks with such force the rim shakes. The gymnasium explodes. People are standing on their seats. Former players in the crowd are crying openly. Khalil Monroe has both hands on his head, shouting words nobody can hear over the noise. 81-62, Simone's livestream, 28,000 viewers, 0:47 remaining. The opposing team is rattled now, making mistakes they haven't made all season. A bad pass, a traveling violation, a shot that clangs off the side of the backboard. Each possession ends with the ball back in Dante's hands, and each time he has it, something impossible happens. A step-back 3 from the wing, 81-65, a Euro step through 3 defenders for a layup. 81-67, another steal, another 3, 81-70. The scoreboard operator keeps checking the numbers like they might be wrong. In the press box, college scouts are on their phones, voices urgent. The athletic director, who overrode Coach Drexler 20 minutes ago, is watching with his mouth open. 0:12 remaining. Lincoln Heights is down by 11. They're going to lose. Everyone in the gymnasium knows they're going to lose. But nobody's thinking about winning anymore. Dante has the ball at the top of the key. The defense collapses on him, 3 players converging. He should pass. Every coaching manual ever written says pass. he doesn't pass. He rises through the triple team, releases from 26 feet, falling backward as a defender crashes into him. The whistle blows, the foul is obvious, flagrant. The ball hangs in the air for what feels like minutes. It drops through as the buzzer sounds, 81-78, final score. The gymnasium goes silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then it erupts with a sound that rattles the rafters. People are screaming, crying, climbing over seats to get closer to the court. Former teammates of Terrence are embracing each other, finally able to grieve and celebrate at the same time. Dante stands at center court, chest heaving, sweat dripping. He's just scored 28 points in 167 seconds. It's statistically impossible, it's mathematically absurd, it's undeniable. On the sideline, Coach Drexler hasn't moved. He's watching his career end in real time, watching proof he can't explain away, can't spin, can't dismiss. Every excuse he might have offered died somewhere around the fourth three-pointer. Simone's livestream has 47,000 viewers now. The comments are scrolling too fast to read. Scouts are texting coaches. Journalists are calling editors. The video is already being downloaded, archived, shared. Evidence that will never disappear. Coach Akara walks onto the court and puts both hands on Dante's shoulders. He doesn't say anything. There's nothing to say. Jackson Drexler, still on the bench where he refused to play, is crying into his hands. The opposing team's players are standing in a circle, not celebrating their victory. Just staring at Dante with expressions somewhere between respect and disbelief. Dante walks to the scorer's table, where Simone has her camera still running. He holds up his right hand, shows the scratched gold ring to the lens. The engraving is barely visible, worn almost smooth by 23 years. But Dante speaks clearly enough that every one of 47,000 viewers can hear. Dante Reeves, 1999, he looks directly into the camera. Say his name, the livestream chat explodes. Within minutes, the phrase is trending. Within an hour, it's national. By morning, it's everywhere. And Coach Vincent Drexler, standing alone on the sideline of a gymnasium that stopped paying attention to him, finally understands what it means to be erased. The article publishes at 11:47 p.m. on Saturday, 43 minutes after the final buzzer. Simone writes the headline herself, 28 points in 167 seconds. How a benched player exposed decades of coaching abuse. The video of Dante's performance is embedded at the top. By Sunday morning, it has 300,000 views. By Sunday evening, 1.2 million. By Monday at noon, 2.3 million people have watched a 15-year-old boy from the Riverside Projects execute basketball perfection while his coach stands frozen on the sideline. The comments section becomes a repository of rage and recognition. Former athletes share their own stories of being benched, dismissed, accused of violations at crucial moments. Parents describe talented children who quit sports after encounters with coaches who couldn't see past their zip codes. Journalists tag colleagues, demanding follow-up investigations. College scouts screenshot timestamps, calculating the mathematical impossibility of what Dante achieved. The state athletic board calls an emergency meeting Sunday afternoon. By Monday morning, coach Vincent Drexler receives official notification. Administrative leave pending investigation into allegations of discriminatory conduct. He's instructed to surrender his keys, clear his office, and have no contact with current or former players. The letter is 2 paragraphs long and destroys a 23-year career. Coach Okoro's folder becomes Exhibit A. 6 players across 23 years, all black. All from neighborhoods the school district classifies as economically disadvantaged. The pattern is surgical in its consistency. Each player showed exceptional talent. Each player was benched, suspended, or accused of violations at moments that would have brought them significant attention. 3 lost college scholarship opportunities. 2 quit basketball entirely before their senior years. 1 transferred to a school 40 miles away and disappeared from competitive play. The investigators locate Marcus Webb first. He's 41 now, works construction in Cleveland, hasn't touched a basketball since 2002. He sits in his living room while Simone records, his daughter watching from the doorway. I averaged 26 points my junior year, Marcus says. His voice is flat, practiced at not feeling this. Coach Drexler benched me the entire district tournament. Said I had attitude problems, said kids from my neighborhood didn't understand team play. He pauses, looks at his hands. I had a full ride to Kent State. The scout came to watch the tournament. I sat on the bench in street clothes while Drexler's nephew started at my position. The offer disappeared 2 weeks later. Darius Coleman is 37, teaches middle school math in Atlanta. His story is nearly identical, just different years, different excuses. He told college scouts I had academic issues, Darius says during his video interview. My GPA was 3.8, but once a coach says something like that, it follows you. Nobody wants the risk. He stops, composes himself. I loved basketball. It was going to be my way out. Instead, I watched Drexler's friend's son get recruited to programs that should have been looking at me. Terrence's story becomes the anchor. The pattern's origin point. Khalil Monroe provides sworn testimony about 1999. Describing how Drexler fabricated recruiting violation allegations to protect his own son's college prospects. Tyrrell was the best player I ever saw, Khalil tells the investigators. Division I schools were fighting over him. Then Drexler filed a complaint with the state board, claiming Terrence accepted money from a college booster. It was completely false, but the accusation alone killed his recruitment. Schools don't touch players with compliance questions. The investigation expands beyond individual stories to systemic advantage. Records show Coach Drexler wrote recommendation letters for 17 players over his career. 16 came from families in the school district's affluent northwestern zone. The 17th was Dante Reeves, and the letter was deliberately lukewarm, emphasizing character concerns and maturity issues that appear nowhere else in Terrence's school record. Jackson Drexler's college recruitment receives particular scrutiny. Despite averaging 11 points per game with mediocre shooting percentages, he received campus visits from 3 Division II programs. Email records subpoenaed by the investigation reveal his father leveraged coaching connections, explicitly promoting Jackson while downplaying more talented teammates. One email to a college recruiter reads, "Jackson has the intangibles you can't teach." Some of our other players have raw talent but lack the discipline for college ball. The other players referenced include Dante, who was averaging 32 points per game at the time. Jackson testifies on Wednesday. He sits across from 3 athletic board investigators in a conference room that smells like burnt coffee and institutional anxiety. His mother waits outside. His father doesn't know he's here. "He told me I earned my opportunities," Jackson says quietly. "That I worked harder than everyone else. That's what I believed." He slides a folder across the table. Text messages between his father and college coaches. Practice schedules showing Dante running extra drills while Jackson left early. Statistics sheets with Dante's numbers minimized in reports to scouts. I didn't want to see it. But after watching Dante score 28 points in less than 3 minutes, while my dad stood there like he was watching his career end, I couldn't pretend anymore. The preliminary findings are released Friday morning, 72 hours after Simone's article published. The State Athletic Board statement is formal, bureaucratic, devastating. Investigation has substantiated a pattern of discriminatory conduct spanning multiple years. Evidence indicates systematic bias in playing time allocation, disciplinary actions, and college recruitment support based on players' socioeconomic backgrounds and race. Preliminary recommendation: termination of employment and permanent prohibition from coaching at any state-sanctioned educational institution. The document is 11 pages long. It names all 6 players. It details the scholarship opportunities lost, the careers ended, the talent systematically erased. It describes a coach who built his reputation by destroying black excellence whenever it threatened his control or his son's advancement. Dante reads the findings on his grandmother's phone while sitting on the Riverside Projects court where his uncle used to play. The chain-link fence rattles in the February wind. Someone has already painted Tyrael 1999 on the backboard in silver spray paint. The preliminary recommendation isn't final. The formal hearing is scheduled for March 15th. Coach Drexler will have the opportunity to defend himself, to present evidence, to challenge the findings. The system that protected him for 23 years will give him one more chance to explain away the pattern, to claim misunderstanding, to argue that 6 destroyed careers across 2 decades were simply unfortunate coincidences. Dante closes the document and looks at the painted name on the backboard. The formal hearing is still 3 weeks away. Justice recommended isn't justice delivered. And Vincent Drexler has spent 23 years learning exactly how to escape accountability. The hearing room at the district administrative building smells like industrial carpet cleaner and recycled air. March 15th arrives with gray skies and the kind of cold that seeps through walls. Dante sits in the front row, his uncle's training journal open on his lap. The leather cover cracked and soft from years of handling. The State Athletic Board occupies a long table at the front, 5 officials in business attire. Their faces professionally neutral. Coach Drexler sits across the aisle with his attorney, a sharp-suited woman who keeps whispering reassurances he doesn't seem to hear. His face has changed in 3 weeks, hollowed out, older, the commanding presence replaced by something smaller. The board chair calls the hearing to order at 9 o'clock. This proceeding will determine final action regarding allegations of discriminatory conduct and abuse of authority. All testimony will be recorded and entered into permanent record. Dante is called first. He walks to the witness table, sets the journal down, and places his hand on it instead of the Bible offered. "I want to read something my uncle wrote in 1999, he says. 3 months before Coach Drexler destroyed his career, he opens to the marked page. His uncle's handwriting still clear despite the faded ink. "Coach pulled me aside after practice today. Said I needed to understand my place. That players from my neighborhood don't get to be stars. We get to be role players if we keep our heads down and don't make waves." I smiled and said, "Yes, sir." But I wrote down every word because someday someone needs to know this wasn't in my head. The room is silent. Dante turns pages. Reading entry after entry, his uncle's growing awareness that his talent was a threat. His careful documentation of comments about project kids and knowing your role. His confusion when scholarship offers suddenly stopped coming. The last entry is from November 1999, Dante says. His voice doesn't shake. 2 weeks after the fake recruiting violation accusation, my uncle wrote, "If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it out. Don't let them make you small. Don't let them erase you. When the moment comes, show them everything." He closes the journal. I showed them everything. But I shouldn't have had to wait until my uncle was dead and I was being benched to prove that talent from the projects deserves respect. Khalil Monroe testifies next. He's wearing a suit that doesn't quite fit, his hands clasped tight on the table. I was there the night Coach Drexler planted the recruiting violation evidence in Terrence's locker. I saw him put the envelope with the cash in Tyrrell's gym bag. I was 17 and scared of losing my own scholarship, so I stayed silent. His voice breaks. I got to play college ball while my best friend lost everything. I've lived with that for 23 years. The 6 former players testify in sequence. Marcus Webb, 38, describes being benched his entire senior year after outscoring the coach's nephew in a showcase game. I was averaging 26 points per game. Suddenly I had attitude problems that required discipline. He never played organized basketball again. Jamal Foster, 41, talks about the scholarship offer from Georgetown that vanished after Coach Drexler told recruiters he had character concerns. I worked at the warehouse where my father worked. Still there. I watch March Madness every year and think about what I could have been. Each testimony adds weight, lives altered. Dreams crushed, talent systematically erased because it came from the wrong zip code. Coach Okoro presents his documentation, 8 years of notes, emails, playing time statistics. The pattern is undeniable, he says quietly. Talented black players from Riverside and Eastwood projects received 63% less playing time than less skilled players from affluent neighborhoods. Disciplinary actions against them were 4 times higher for identical infractions. College recruiters were actively discouraged from watching them. Jackson Drexler testifies last among the witnesses. He won't look at his father. I grew up watching Dad give playing time to kids whose parents donated to the booster club. I watched him bench players who were better than me because they didn't have the right last name or the right address. His voice hardens. He told me I earned my position. I didn't. I benefited from a system built on destroying black excellence. Simone presents her statistical analysis, charts and graphs showing 23 years of disproportionate benching. Discipline and recruitment sabotage. The numbers make the pattern undeniable, transform individual cruelties into documented systemic abuse. Coach Drexler's attorney argues coaching discretion, judgment calls, discipline issues. The defense collapses under the weight of pattern evidence, 6 players. 23 years, identical treatment, all from poor neighborhoods, all black. All too talented. The board deliberates for 47 minutes. The ruling is read at 3:15 p.m. Immediate termination of employment, permanent prohibition from coaching in any capacity at any state-sanctioned institution. All championships won during the investigation period are vacated pending further review, but the reckoning extends further. The district launches a comprehensive review of coaching practices across all sports. 3 other coaches are placed under investigation within a week. New policies require written documentation for all benching decisions. Third-party review of disciplinary actions. And annual audits of playing time distribution. The school board meets 2 weeks later. The vote is unanimous. The gymnasium will be renamed the Terrence Reeves Athletic Center. An annual scholarship in his name will support student athletes from underserved communities. Dante stands at the dedication ceremony in April, his grandmother beside him, Khalil and the former players gathered around. The new sign gleams above the entrance, his uncle's name restored, honored, permanent. But as college scouts fill the bleachers for Dante's junior year games, the question hangs unspoken. Did exposing the truth cost him his own future, or finally clear the path his uncle never got to walk? 6 months later, Dante Reeves signs his letter of intent on national television. Division I full scholarship, the program that recruited him specifically because of what happened. The athletic director told him they wanted players who understood that talent without character meant nothing. And character without courage meant even less. The scouts who filled the bleachers during his junior year didn't just see the 32 points per game or the court vision that made highlight reels. They saw a 16-year-old who refused to stay invisible when a system tried to erase him. They saw someone who understood that basketball was always about more than basketball. Today he stands at the Riverside Project's basketball court where his uncle learned the game. Where Dante spent his childhood perfecting moves that Terrence never got to use. The chain-link fence rattles in the August wind. Same sound that provided the soundtrack to 1,000 pickup games. 1,000 dreams deferred or destroyed. The court is packed, not for a game, but for something more permanent. The T-Real basketball camp banner hangs across the fence. Professionally printed, but hung with zip ties. Because this is still the projects, and some things don't change. Free basketball instruction for kids from Riverside and Eastwood. Funded by donations that poured in after Simone's story went viral. After the pattern of destroyed black talent became something the nation couldn't ignore. Kalo Monroe stands near the baseline, 40 years old now, wearing a camp staff shirt with Terrence's name across the back. 6 former players are scattered around the court, each one benched or dismissed by Coach Drexler. Each one finally getting to share what they know with the next generation. Coach Raymond Acaro, now head coach at Lincoln Heights, demonstrates a pick and roll with a 14-year-old from Eastwood. The program he's built in the 6 months since Drexler's termination looks nothing like what came before. Every benching decision documented. Every discipline action reviewed by a third-party panel. Every player's development tracked and made transparent. Lorraine Reeves sits in a folding chair near center court, wearing her son's championship ring on a chain around her neck. The ring from 1999, the one Terrence never got to wear when the false accusations destroyed everything. She watches her grandson with pride that carries its own weight of grief. Because vindication doesn't erase loss. It just makes space for something else to grow. Dante gathers the kids at center court, 47 of them ranging from 9 to 15 years old. They sit in a semicircle, some in worn sneakers held together with duct tape. Some in hand-me-down jerseys. All of them carrying dreams that this neighborhood has learned to protect fiercely. This camp isn't just about basketball, Dante tells them, his uncle's training journal in his hands. The binding is cracked, pages yellowed and soft from years of handling, ink faded but still legible. It's about learning to see the patterns, learning to document your own story before someone else writes it for you. He opens the journal to the final entry, the one written 3 weeks before Terrence died, when his nephew was barely 3 years old. If you're reading this, it means they tried to bench you too. Dante's voice carries across the court, steady and clear. Don't stay silent like I did. They'll tell you it's about discipline, about attitude, about things you need to fix. They'll make it sound reasonable. But if you're talented and black and from a neighborhood like ours, there's a pattern you need to recognize. The kids listen with an intensity that goes beyond their years. Because most of them have already felt the weight of low expectations disguised as concern. Play your game, Dante continues reading. Make them watch. And when they can't deny you anymore, when your talent becomes too obvious to ignore, make sure the next kid doesn't have to fight this fight alone. Document everything, find your witnesses, and refuse to be erased. He closes the journal and scans the faces before him. His gaze settles on a 13-year-old girl in the front row, Jasmine Rodriguez. Point guard from Riverside. The kind of talent that should have coaches fighting over recruitment rights. Instead, her middle school coach keeps telling her she's too aggressive for a girl from her background. That she needs to be more of a team player. Which means passing to less talented players from better neighborhoods. Dante recognizes the pattern because it's written in his uncle's journal. Because he lived it 6 months ago. Because it never really stops until someone breaks the cycle. He crosses to Jasmine and kneels down, holding out the journal. Read this, he tells her, all of it. Learn what my uncle figured out too late. And when your moment comes, when they try to make you smaller or quieter or less visible, don't hold back. Play your game. Make them watch. Jasmine takes the journal with both hands, feeling its weight. Understanding without being told that she's receiving something sacred. She opens it to the first page, where Terrence's handwriting declares the philosophy that eventually saved his nephew. They want you to be good enough to win for them, but not good enough to threaten them. Refuse both, be undeniable. Dante stands and steps back, watching her read, seeing the recognition dawn in her eyes. Khalil moves beside him, voice quiet. He'd be proud of you. He'd be proud of all of us, Dante replies. Gesturing to the court full of kids, the coaches who refused to stay silent. The community that turned personal vindication into generational healing. The pattern is broken now, not erased, but visible, documented, something that can be named and fought and finally overcome. Jasmine looks up from the journal, and Dante sees his uncle's fierce determination reflected back at him. The legacy continues.